Hi, I'm Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, and I'm very fortunate today to be here with Heather Paquette, who is the president of the Good Shepherd Food Bank. We all know a little bit about Good Shepherd, but maybe, Heather, you could just start by telling us about the important work you do and just how broad the reach is of your work.
Thank you. Very happy to be here today to discuss our work. It's more important than ever right now. So, Feeding America is the largest nonprofit in the United States, and all 50 states have at least one Feeding America food bank. Most states have multiple. Maine has one, which is us, Good Shepherd Food Bank. We see that as an incredible responsibility and privilege to serve as Maine's Feeding America food bank. We source and distribute food to over 600 partner agencies from Fort Kent to Kittery. And through those partnerships, those over 600 partners then provide direct service to people experiencing food insecurity in the state of Maine.
Well, thank you for the work you do. And I do know that people have been telling us that the demand for food banks is very high right now. So can you put that in some kind of context so people can just have a general feeling for how much your food banks are being used?
Exactly right. You are absolutely correct. We are hearing from partner agencies that they are, I don't like to say record levels because it implies that that's a positive thing, but they are able to serve a record number of neighbors and that month after month, those numbers are being exceeded. So we know our numbers for the state of Maine at a minimum are that we are at 13.8% food insecurity in the state. That's 191,000 people, and within that number is 50,000 children. Maine currently has the highest rates of food insecurity for all of New England. Now, beyond that research and data, we know from partner agencies the real on the ground, on time, up to date information about those lines that you referenced. And we are hearing stories of lines that are anywhere between 30% and 50% increases over what they have needed to serve. So driving that, there's a number of things driving that, and it's getting more challenging and more worrisome as we look at the developments that are coming a few short days out. And food security is financial security. They are interchangeable terms. So when people have the income that they need to buy all of their household goods, they are not food insecure.
Right.
And when people have to prioritize things like the increased cost of rent and transportation and childcare and address growing costs in grocery prices, they often don't have enough money at the end of the weekday month to buy food. And that's where our work comes into place. That's why the Emergency Food Network exists. We believe that all people should have the right to food and that there's enough food in our nation and state to feed everyone. So the Emergency Food Network moves food from places of abundance to places of need, and we provide food for people who need it. I will also say we are designed to be the last resort
Right.
after other measures have been exhausted.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about the important role that SNAP benefits play. But before we get off just the topic of how food banks work, I think often, and you did a great job of sort of outlining it, people don't understand what a broad reach there is at a food bank. As you mentioned, the cost of so many things is very high right now, whether it's your housing or your childcare, food in general. And so the fact that you're getting to the end of the week and your paycheck just doesn't stretch far enough is impacting more and more people. But can you just describe that a little bit? Because I think often people think, well, the people who go to food bank are somebody who's just not working. But in fact, many people go to work every day and still need some extra help with food.
That's exactly right. And you said it perfectly, actually. Our research shows that people are working that are needing to visit food pantries. Many times they're working two jobs and just don't have enough at the end of the day, week, or month to make ends meet. We also find that the pantry network often is supplementing what they're using income for at grocery stores, but they simply don't have enough at the end of the week. So again, food security is financial security. And we hear heartbreaking stories of parents who prioritize their children's meals over their own meals, water down milk, and really stretch a very small basic food budget beyond what is really reasonable or will feed their family. And we really try to be that gap filler for them so that they don't have to do that.
Yeah, we're so grateful that you're there. But I think often people think when they're when they don't have a good understanding of how government assistance helps people or how the federal government helps states like Maine to make sure that people stay well fed, they often think, well, that's fine. We've got food banks. We've got such great food banks. And we do. We have wonderful people who work in food banks and wonderful communities that have put together food banks. But the fact is, I've seen statistics that about um, let's see, 1 in 9 meals, maybe if you're talking about SNAP benefits in a food bank, comes from a food bank, but the other eight need to come from some kind of a federal program like SNAP. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the difference when there's not enough SNAP availability in the needs that you're trying to meet, and maybe just put it in context that you guys couldn't do everything if you had to?
That's exactly right. I wish that was not true. And our food security work is designed to be a series of interdependent tools that provide food to our community. We call it the food security ecosystem, which
That's
is a combination of us, partner agencies, our government leaders, the donor community, volunteers, other nonprofits. We all come together to do this work. And a very important piece of our work is those SNAP benefits and sustainable health care, predictable, sustainable health care for people, which is also an income drain that affects food insecurity. We have a manageable amount of work on a good day when those tools are safely in place and they're predictable, reliable sources of safety tools. And I use the analogy and the visual of you think about healthcare as one safety net, SNAP benefits are a second safety net. Once people have moved through those safety nets, the Emergency Food Network, which is the pantries in the state of Maine, we exist to serve that, and we will exist as long as we need to serve what has been left over for work after those safety measures have been exhausted. When those safety measures are removed and you take the visual and you take the net out, it's an insurmountable work on the Emergency Food Network. And I'll use a few data points from our partners at Feeding America. Feeding America in the nation currently distributes 6 billion meals. If you remove SNAP benefits, you are increasing that by 9 billion meals. It is simply an unsustainable, unimaginable impact on the Emergency Food Network. We were built
Yeah.
alongside SNAP.
Mhm.
So those tools were created in the 80s to complement each other and to be the tools that people had in the United States of America to stay food secure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand the important role that SNAP benefits play in our state. And this is a particularly worrisome time, as you know. One, we're in a government shutdown. So there are federal employees who have started missing a paycheck. So they're adding to the list of people who normally have a job and could put food on their table, but don't have a source of income and are often living paycheck to paycheck to meet their rent and some of the other expenses that people have. And then second, the federal government has just threatened to cut off SNAP benefits in November. Now, we're having a big fight at the Washington, D.C. level because we say, hey, there's money in the reserves at the USDA, and they're moving all kinds of money around to Argentina and building a ballroom, and we don't have to get in the politics of it, but there is money there, and this should be a high priority need. But given this threat, given that states are being told right now, don't even send in the files, we're not going to calculate the need for next month, which is just wrong and not true. And I do believe we will win this fight. But let's just say November 1st, the money's not there. People's EBT cards don't get refilled. I guess you just described it to us, but it just seems catastrophic to me in the state of Maine and means, just an untenable situation.
Yes. First of all, thank you for fighting for us. We count on that. I spoke of the food security ecosystem, and we cannot source and distribute enough food that's going to make up for policy. So thank you for fighting with us. Thank you for your fellow members of Congress for fighting with us, fighting alongside us, not
Yes, of
fighting
course.
with us.
With you. Yeah.
To do the right thing for the people of Maine. We appreciate that. We're grateful for it. We're counting on that. And I would say to put some numbers to this fear, it's very real. So, in talking with partner agencies, we are doing everything that we can to help them prepare. And we've certainly had the scenario of possibility that we may not have SNAP for the month of November. Honestly, none of us ever thought that that was an actual thing that we needed to prepare for. But in crisis management, you learn to prepare for the worst, and that's where we're at. We're at the worst. So to answer your question, there's 170,000 people who are eligible for SNAP benefits in some way in the state of Maine. So you're essentially looking at doubling our work. And so, in addition to, even if it was straight math to say we distributed 40 million meals last year with our partner agencies to the people experiencing food insecurity, if you did the straight math and doubled that, we aren't built for it. We would do everything humanly possible. And it's not a straight doubling just because the number doubles. And here's why. You spoke about efficiency. SNAP is one of or the most efficient way to deliver food to people. Money gets loaded on a card, they go to the closest grocery store or the grocery store of their choice, and they purchase the foods that they need. Meanwhile, we are arranging for retail rescued food, sorting through what's donatable and what's not. Donatable is not a word, by the way, so sorry for that. What is able to be donated and what is not good enough to be donated. And then that is trucked from Fort Kent to Kittery in an intentionally inefficient way because we're trying to take on all of the inefficiencies so that our partner agencies, who have a fraction of the staff and the resourcing, can have a manageable experience when we bring the food to them. So, Feeding America helps us understand the efficiency of SNAP. I have heard numbers like, I think on our best day, it takes 3 meals from the Emergency Food Network to make up 1 meal for SNAP. On our worst day in certain states that have large geography and a lot of difficulty to move from point A to point B, which describes half of Maine,
Right.
we could be looking at 1 in 9. So for every 1 meal SNAP provides the Emergency Food Network, we'd have the challenge of 9 meals. So it is not a realistic, we were never built for this is the message that we're really
Yeah.
trying to get out. I am so honored to be in this role. Our team is running hard. Our partners are running harder. We'll do everything we humanly possibly can, and we will ask for as much help as we can. And the ecosystem is not built for this. We need our government programs that we count on to do our work to be honored.
Well, thank you for that work that you're doing. I mean, we don't really have time to get into every little detail, but I just want to say that we're facing a challenge right now in November. We already have a challenge looming because of what we call the big ugly bill or the big beautiful bill, however you want to describe it, is going to make significant cuts to SNAP, put a big burden on the states if they want to try to make the program whole. And you have also had other cuts because one of the programs that we lost in the budget cuts that we're experiencing, which may continue once the government gets back open again, was the one that helped to procure more local food and local produce. So I'm assuming that was an important supplement to what you were able to provide.
Yes, you've captured it correctly. I would also say we have also had reductions in our TFAP program, which is food distributed
Right.
by the USDA. So that happened at the same time as the local food funding that you mentioned, which was called LFPA. So when we met with you in March, we had experienced losing the LFPA funding, which
Right.
was money that went to farmers after they had planted seeds, hired staff,
Exactly.
planned
Yeah.
on the sales, and pantries had planned on getting that fresh produce. So it was a twofold impact to the Maine communities. And at the same time, we learned that our TVAP distribution April, May, and June was going to be reduced by 50%. That still has not rebounded. We have great partners who have done everything that they can to try to course correct and bring that number back up, but it is not back up where it was at that level. That was prior to the June impacts of the reconciliation bill. So we have been waiting for the other shoe to drop theoretically since March. It's just been one thing after another.
Yeah, I think it's been very stressful for you, for all the food banks, obviously everyone who's watching this every day, but mostly for the families who are just worrying about what's going to happen to me next month? Will there be enough food? Is this system going to keep working? So for all of us who work on this in Washington, thank you so much for what you do. But I do hope people get a better understanding that this isn't just one little problem. These are cuts that have been going on for the last 9 months to make your job more difficult. These are looming cuts, no matter what happens with the shutdown, to SNAP benefits going into the future. And it's also a cliff that could happen in November. And I just want to remind everyone, we're the richest country in the world, as I think you mentioned earlier. Nobody should go hungry in this country. And certainly at the federal level, we shouldn't use taxpayer dollars to give tax cuts to billionaires or other priorities if we're not making sure that everybody gets the food that they need in this country. So I know that's your number one priority.
Right.
Really appreciate you spending some time today just helping people to better understand how complicated this problem is, but also how dangerous it is for people in the state of Maine. And again, thank you. Thank you to all your partners. People work so hard to do this. Um, and I look forward to continuing working with you because I think in the end we will, the right side will prevail, but we are in a bad place right now and we have to fight back.
Yes, well, we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your leadership at all times. We appreciate it more than ever right now.